Welcome to CAB Radio 2.0. Here are your hosts, Chris Perkins, Mark Cummins, and Jeff Giles.
It's the honest to God truth. And I think the reason I got onto this subject, I'm working on a new video about Bitcoin, which I never really got too much into because I was a big MFed guy, and to me, you know, my solid places like gold and silver, that's after, you know, right. Lead and food. You know, as long as I had a bunch of food stored, water filters, and a bunch of lead to protect it, I was good to go.
That's me, yeah.
Right. Then the next step was gold and silver, and, you know, I stocked up on that. And, you know, I started learning more about this cryptocurrency, and I had a couple donations, and I started looking more into it, and my one buddy called me. I'm going to have him on my show hopefully this week. And I asked him, because this shows you how much I was out of the loop. I said, you know, didn't they make it impossible to cash out? And he said no. And everybody I talked to, I was like, hey, you know, have you heard about Bitcoin? Everybody. And I know Bitcoin is just one of the cryptocurrencies, but everybody I talked to thought that it died, right? So I guess when it dropped at 50%, the media went they were all over saying how it failed, okay? But a lot of people don't realize, Bitcoin has been up 80% over the last 3 months, right? So I guess I got in right at the perfect time. And I needed some money, so I talked to my one buddy, and he told me how to cash out. And I'm like, all right, I hope this all works. So I went through the process, and I transferred a couple $100 into my bank account, and it said, okay, it'll be there Thursday. So I went there today, and I had my camera going. I had my DSLR around my neck, and I had my iPhone going. I didn't want to make it too obvious, you know, but I can't, because I wanted to do if this worked, I wanted to do a quick video, because there are videos telling you exactly how to do it and how, you know, what all the processes are and you know,
so it doesn't actually walk you through it.
But I wanted to make a video to say, hey, you know, I'm pretty much new to this, and you know, go to Coinbase or go here and find out what to do. And if you want to know if this really works, and I didn't even upload the video yet, it worked, and I only paid 15, I think it was 15 or 20 cents to transfer. It was $800 that I transferred, and I only paid 20. You realize if you use Western Union, that would have been like $60 or an $80 bill on top of that. Like just to transfer that money.
Sure.
So you're right. So I did a short video showing that it was the first time I did it, that I transferred the money. I cashed out at my bank. I got the cash in hand. I went right outside. I set up the tripod, and I did a quick outro saying, you know, this has my approval. I'm like, and I told the lady, I talked to the clerk about it a little bit while I was in there. But, I mean, it went through, no problems, and, you know, I'm going to look more into it, and it's certainly, I mean, when you're talking 15 cents as opposed to $80 for a transfer fee, and not to mention, I'm sure none of us here are big fans of, you know, FDIC, fractional reserve banking, you know, where, if I don't like to use banks to begin with, but if I have $1 on my account and I'm waiting for a check to clear, and I go to check my balance, and it charges me $250 just to see my balance, all of a sudden I'm overdrawn, it charges me $38.50, and then I check again the next day, now realizing it charges me another $38.50. Now, and then it charges you $10 every 4 days or every 5 days that you're overdrawn. I go into the bank, I'm $144 in the negative. Like, they're charging you because you don't have. And I have a whole conversation with this bank lady. I'm like, do you realize what you're doing? I'm like, number one, it's my money. I'm like, what are you talking about? You have my money, and you're telling me because I haven't given you enough of my money, you're going to put a charge on me. I'm like, you know what, I'm closing this account. And I couldn't even close you can't close your account with a negative balance, sir.
Until you pay it, yeah.
I had $1 in my checking account, and because of me waiting for a check and checking my balances, it ended up running up to $144, and you're going to tell me that's just? And that's when I had to pull the journalism card and say, you know what, I'm going to make this story fucking global, and I'm going to, make you look like an absolute fool. Oh, no, because she said, but it's our policy. It's our policy. I said, it's your policy. I said, number one, you're the one in charge. I said, change your policy or change it right now, right? Oh, I can't do that. I said, you know what? I have a policy, and my policy is not getting ripped off and robbed, especially when it comes to anything, let alone my money that you're supposed to be protecting. So my policy is now going to expose you for the extortionist criminal that you are. How do you like that one? And she's like, well, I'm sure we could work something out. And
sure.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing once you flex your muscles and you let people know that, hey, I'm gonna make you look like the fool on the internet, and people will start changing their minds real quick. They're scared to death of the internet, and they should be. It's the truth.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Now, I've got to stop you real quick because, of course, as you say, I mean, I'm totally against central banking and the reserve and totally for a free market but as you mentioned in the beginning, I am very for sound money. It's something that I can, gold, silver, lead, food.
Tangible, right? Tangible.
And I'm still not totally convinced on Bitcoin or any other coin, Dogecoin or any of it. Because and these are the two questions I'd have for you is one. Being, I think you believe in the one world government and of course a one world currency, and communism is a one world. Right. Okay. So that still makes me really nervous. Is that that's still a real easy way in there?
Yes,
and secondly, I'm gonna do a two-part question. What if the grid falls? What if they shut down the grid? Or I know there's ways around it, and we can always start up a new grid. But if the current grid shuts down for whatever reason, then what do you do? You lose. Do you lose everything?
Absolutely. No, man, those are the two, and it's great that we're so on the same page. Those were my two biggest concerns, and they still are, honestly. Those are definitely two of the biggest concerns, and rightfully so, because, yes, we are worried about a one-world currency. We see that they're trying. They do want a one-world government. They admitted it. I do worry about that aspect of it. Now, as far as the cryptocurrencies being the gateway to get there. Now, here's the thing. I don't have the exact answer, but, Mark, if you think about it this way, okay, if the dollar were to collapse for whatever reason, and I've gone over this scenario many times. Now, the dollar could collapse just on its own, okay? That could be the just one event. There could be a run on the banks, and by tomorrow they could call for a bank holiday where they shut down the banks for 7 to 9 days. And by the time the banks open, if you had $100,000 in there, you'd be lucky if you get pennies on the dollar, because once they did all the readjusting, and America overnight would become a third world country. Okay. That is a very real possibility. That means that the truck drivers would not have enough money to pay for gas, which means they would not be able to get the food to the grocery stores, which means
I think it's more than possible. I think it's probably going to inevitable.
Right. Yeah, it's inevitable. Okay, yeah, I'm with you there. And there's a great video that was done by the National Inflation Association called "The Day the Dollar Dies," and it shows you a 12-hour period of what would happen when the United States finally goes for QE 4 or 5, one of them, and when what it would look like, the 12 hours when the dollar actually does collapse. Okay, now you have to keep in account. We talk about all these false flags. Okay, 9/11 changed. No matter where you stand on 9/11, everybody, even, the people who believe the official story, everybody has to agree that the entire world changed on one day, okay? Within a couple hours, the entire world changed on 9/11, okay? So if something were to happen, okay, whether it be a huge attack, whether that be real or manufactured, whether it be a huge catastrophic weather event, something, that's really, or an EMP attack, which they've been pushing, a friggin' solar flare that would fry the grid of the United States, what they said is possible. Every single one of those events, all leads to the collapse of the dollar, okay? So there's no way around that, all right? Now, I just wanted to get that out there just because it kind of ties in with where I'm going from here. So,
you didn't even touch base on the whole idea of just being a Ponzi scheme in general and going to crash eventually anyway.
Oh, yeah, right.
Period.
In the beginning, I know sometimes I forget who I'm talking to, but yeah, you're right. That's just a given. It's inevitable. That's going to happen. Right, that's going to happen on its own anyway. So I make the point that there are so many other things that can happen, and people are like, oh, what if there's a this or if there's a that? They forget that 9/11 back then when the economy was doing, at a pretty good pace for 100 years, it almost took the economy down. So right now, with so many people not working and the economy just terrible, of course it would cause the dollar to collapse, right? Now, so that's just one case. That's the Federal Reserve notes. It's a Ponzi scheme. Yes, you're absolutely right. And this is why I stayed away from, or why I wasn't a big supporter. Hang on, let me rephrase that. I wasn't big into the cryptocurrencies because I was a big end the Fed guy, and I understood how the Federal Reserve worked. And I was somebody, I'm like, you know what, I want something that's tangible, something that I know that's worth, something like gold and silver. And that's how I was, for years. And I stayed away from the cryptocurrencies. When I say stay away, like I just told you that story, like this is something new. Like it's not like I'm this expert. This is my first experience actually, using the cryptocurrencies. But I'm starting to get into it a little bit more. But I'll explain. So my main concerns were exactly like yours, because when people ask me about buying gold and silver, I said don't ever buy gold and silver when it's just paper. I said you need to buy literal, like tangible. You need to own it, because anything that's just paper or electronic could be gone, at the snap of a finger. If it's zeros on a frigging computer, or if it's paper, that means absolutely nothing. But if you own tangible gold or tangible silver, which, I don't own any paper certificate that says this is worth silver. No, I own silver friggin' bars, So that's where my mind frame is and still was. So let me try to answer the questions here. As far as the one world currency, I see where people could make the connection and say, all right, they're going in this direction and they could do that. Well, if they are going in that direction, I don't think they would need to go that direction unless they're really trying to get people's minds into it to accept it. But if that's the case, they're failing at it, because like I said, just over the last week, everybody I talked to thought Bitcoin was dead. Okay, and not to mention, they don't need a cryptocurrency to go into a global currency. They could, kill the dollar, say, listen, we have this new currency, it's great, it's going to come in an RFID microchip that's going to be able to hold your health insurance, your driver's license. You won't have to carry around a wallet anymore. It'll have all your bank information. It'll have everything, So they don't need to go that route. That's number one, okay? Number two, as far as your question about if things were to crash. Now, yes, you're absolutely right. If something were to crash, as far as electronics would go, I would imagine you'd be hit, and you'd be hit just as much as if there was a bank holiday and anything collapsed. Now,
right, and you had millions in the bank. Fair enough.
Right. Now, me being somebody that has been doing this for almost 10 years, and especially the first couple of years, every year I thought, I'm like, oh man, this is it. There's no way we're getting through another year. So I stopped playing that game because I realized that these people who are running this invisible empire that is running the world, they know that incrementalization is so much better, and it's better to slowly, turn the water up on the front. What's that?
Right. No, absolutely.
Yeah,
I was agreeing with you. Which kind of makes me wonder about, the cryptocurrency. What if that is just kind of a trickle effect?
So right, and here's the way I'm looking at it. Okay, is number one, anything that goes against the state, or goes against the Federal Reserve. Number one, I will at least give my support. Which over the last couple of years, I said, hey, I haven't gotten into it personally, but I at least support it just for the fact that somebody's trying to create alternative currencies. And there are a lot of people that are trying to Bitcoin is almost like the Federal Reserve, and I don't want to say that. Bitcoin is almost like the reserve currency for cryptocurrencies, okay? There's a lot of different cryptocurrencies out there, Darkcoin with Dark Wallet and Litecoin, and there's a whole bunch of them I don't even know about. But Bitcoin's been around the longest, and people know it the best, and it fluctuates, yes. But so yeah, you would lose on that aspect. Now, if you're somebody that is going to assume that the power is going to go out and you're going to lose everything overnight, I certainly wouldn't put stock in that. And I'm even right now, I'm somebody that's skeptical. I'm not going to put a lot into it, but and moving forward, the bottom can drop out at any minute, and we're going to have to deal with what we have. But moving forward, if somebody has Bitcoin and they're able to donate, $5 worth of Bitcoin to me, I'm certainly not going to tell them no. Or if they, and I would actually encourage. And here's the whole point, Mark. If we both know that, eventually things are going to come crashing down, but we don't know if it's going to be tomorrow or if it's going to be 10 or 15 years from now.
Right.
So we have to try to do the best we can, and if we have something that quite possibly could change things, to me I say go for it. Don't put your life savings into it, but get $20, $30, $50 worth of Bitcoin.
Sure.
And, if you got into it 3 months ago, you'd be up like $150 right now.
There you go.
And it fluctuates. And if you can afford it, do it. And it's also supporting this. More and more people are accepting it. But and then believe me, brother, I had the same exact questions. I said the same exact thing. Global currency. Oh man, is this it? And it was that part of me that is always looking for these people that are ready to just drop the hammer at any time. But I guess I can't live my life like that anymore. So it's always on my mind. Believe me, I'm ready at a minute's notice. Yeah, I'm ready at a minute's notice, and I'll know the signs if something is about to hit the fan. But
sure.
It could be another 10 years. We could be having a similar conversation, and
you're 100% right.
Yeah, and
You're
we have
100%
no
right. I
idea.
say that all the time. Because I think a crash is inevitable, but it's when. Like you said, it could be tomorrow, it could be 10 years, it could be 50 years. I don't know.
If the coin holds the world will fall.
You mentioned 1984. I mean, you know, for how accurate he was as far as the information, obviously he was off by the year, you know, or the year.
Yeah.
You know, and
that's about all.
yeah, right. And I mean, there's a lot of things that you could look at that will start giving you signs. And you know, I'm somebody that I've been doing it so long. It's almost like you know, the Matrix, where you read numbers and you decipher codes. And you know, this might be the conspiracy theorist in me, but I know, I'm pretty sure Gerald Celente said this summer he was expecting either a big dip or maybe even a crash. I got to look into that. And I know he hasn't been doing interviews too much recently. But then what I've been saying ever since since I started doing this, I said one of the big signs that we'll see when, you know, the shit's about to hit the fan is that a lot of these globalist scumbags, they're going to start to disappear, okay, in one way or another, right? And what have we seen just in the last couple months, right? Jay Leno. Now I know he's supposedly conservative, okay, but he you know, he's this big time guy who owned late night television for years and years. He went through that thing with Conan O'Brien just to get his show back, just to retire. Like 2 months ago, right? Then, this was a big one for me, okay? Barbara Walters, okay, complete CFR scumbag. And if you understand the CFR and the people, these are the people that don't just report news. I don't even want to say report news. They create the story and the narrative and then report it. Okay. Yeah. Now Barbara Walters is you know, one of the biggest CFR people that have been doing this for a while. Now she is somebody that I believe would have done her job like a Dick Clark, almost, you know, to the day she couldn't even get out, you know, stand up on her own. Well, she just retired, you know, and I know it would be completely obvious if a lot of these big-time people decided to retire on the same day, okay? So you know they're smart enough to have a plan to say, all right, you know, it's got to be a month apart or we got to start pulling people out. And we know about the deep underground military bases where all these people were probably promised, you know, luxury suites in order to watch the end of the world or watch the collapse as the first wave. And it's going to come in waves. The first wave is going to be the hard one. If you make it past the first wave of food riots and you know, you have a lot better chance. The second wave will be tough. You make it to the third wave, you're going to be a hardcore guy ready to, you might hang in there, you know. But these people have been promised something, obviously, blackmail, these senators, these congressmen. They've been promised, you know, in my opinion, they've been promised seats in these deep. We know for a fact there's deep underground military bases from California to, you know, from the West Coast to the East Coast to Texas. Denver, you know, seems to be the main point where they would have entry, and then it branches off. That one guy leaked out the photos that shows exactly where it goes and how deep it goes and stuff. And it's, you know, it really is incredible. And just a quick side note on that, you think, oh, where would you get the money to fund something like that? Well, when you bottom out the economy and steal, you know, a couple $1 trillion from the American people, I think you would come up with the money for that very simply, you know. And you see the legislation that's being passed where you don't need to even have proof to arrest somebody. You can arrest them on anything you want. You can indefinitely detain them. They literally can do whatever they want to us, okay? So at some point, these people are going to start slipping away. The you know, quote-unquote important people are going to start slipping out of the public spotlight. They're going to, you know, maybe enjoy their life for a couple weeks, and at some point they're going to be taken to these underground military bases, and that's probably going to be right before the shit hits the fan. and they're going to be safe. And I don't know which way it's going to go. I don't know exactly how it's going to play out, but they're going to be safe. They're going to be underground. They'll probably be on seats with their legs kicked up, eating popcorn, and then watching the end of civilization on a big screen. And that's probably how it's going to go. So, we don't know when it's going to happen. We don't know exactly how it's going to happen. Well, honestly, the way we're going, if you're going to think, logically, pragmatically, realistically, use common sense, and ask yourself, why did they create these laws that give so much power to just one, the executive branch, one person, that they could do anything to anybody? And why did they build all these deep underground military bases? And why are they militarizing the police with MRAPs and LRADs and all kinds of APC armored personnel carriers and stocking up on over 4 billion rounds of hollow point ammunition while they're using shooting targets of little children and old men wearing John Deere hats and grandmas, and so you start connecting the dots, and you start to realize, like, oh my God, man, what is really going on here? And yeah, conspiracy theory, theorists, all you want, but most of the stuff a lot of the stuff I said is true. I read a lot of the David Rockefeller quotes. I've read them on air where he admits that they are literally working towards a world government, and that they're going to get it, whether it be by blood or conquest or I forget the exact terminology, but he said that yes, if you're saying that me and my family have been working towards a world government, then yes, I'm guilty as charged and proud of it. Or don't forget the other one. I'd like to thank the New York Times, the Washington Post, and Time Magazine, and other great publications for attending our meetings over the last 40 years and keeping their vows of discretion if we were exposed to the bright lights of public broadcasting, basically, that we would not be able to create this new world. But the world is much more now advanced now, and we are ready to move towards a one world government. And he said this straight up, right in your face, and he thanks them. Like, hey, you've been at our groups. Thank you for keeping your promises that you'd show up and not report on it. And I just talked about this recently. I said, listen, to a lot of these local top radio shows, and that's why I wish more people would do this. I said, do you realize the people that a lot of Americans turn to as the political pundits, the talking heads, Dennis Miller, Alan Combs, whether it's right or left, Alan Combs, Glenn Beck, Bill O'Reilly. I said all these guys, up until a couple of years ago, if anybody mentioned the Bilderberg Group, conspiracy theorists, tinfoil hat wearing, crazy in their mother's basement, blah, 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 they all denied it even existed. I said, so what is there? I didn't upload this video, but I said this to LA. I said, so where is their credibility at now that, these are supposedly the political pundits, the people that everybody go to get their opinions directly, mind melded right into their brain, and they're making fun of people for saying, hey, how come you never talk about the Bilderberg Group? They're denying it even existed until time finally put that piece out admitting that it was real. So now we know it's real. So they lied about it for decades. Then when it was proven, they said, oh, yeah, it's real, but it's nothing you need to worry about. Well, where's the credibility? Glenn Beck made fun of people multiple times for talking about the Bilderberg Group. So how do you trust somebody? You put two celebrities in a room together, and you have paparazzi falling over each other to try to, get a story. But you have 120 to 150 of the world power elite that not a minute of their life goes by undocumented. But once a year, they meet in secret behind closed doors, and nobody knows what the fuck they're talking about. Like, are you telling me that is not a big deal?
It's the government.
it's the government and the media working together, like symbiotically, like and just
Literally.
to control the perception of all adults. And it's the schools that are controlling the perception of the children and getting them trained to buy the BS of the government. What they put in front of us. With,
and it's so. I mean, the thing that bothers me, I think, so much is that it's man, it really shows how deep the brainwashing goes. Is that it's so obvious, it's so right in front of your face, it's literally smacking you in the face. It's an insult to most people's intelligence, but yet most people don't have a frigging clue what is going on. And then even if you tell them, they don't care. And it's like, wow, sometimes I think like, man, if these, Illuminati scumbags or whatever you want to call them, if you put yourself in their shoes and you look at, America today, like, I almost kind of see, I love humanity. I certainly am not on the side of mass murder and genocide. I would hope that goes without saying. But, if you're one of these people and you look at Americans, mainly Americans, and you look at how they don't care about their own lives, anything that matters at all, you kind of question. It's like, wow, you can kind of see where these Illuminati banksters sit and say, these people cannot rule themselves. Somebody has to save the planet. And, I know it sounds crazy, but think about it. Like, we talk about it, and we say these people are, they're crazy. They don't even care about their own lives. And even when you tell them, hey, 9/11 was a fucking inside job, and they just don't, even if they agree with you, they don't want to take it any further. They're more worried about what's coming on television that night. So you have to think, what do you think these powerful people that run the world think? You think they feel sorry? They put everything out right in front of us for us to see. It's almost like that's their way of getting out of a guilt trip. It's like, hey, we put everything out there. We let them, we gave them every opportunity to do something about it, and they were not able to pull their shit together. And, so, they don't need to feel guilty about, I guess, depopulating most of the planet, I guess. Right. I don't know, man. What do you think about that? How do you think okay, the way I just put that there, and they put a lot of clues, or however you want to take it, whether it's coincidence or not. But right. It does seem like they put a lot of clues right out in front of us. They straight up, okay, just take their quotes. They straight up tell us what they're doing. Now, for the fact that it's not in secret, it's just that the mainstream media lies right to our faces. How do you think they feel about the American people and what they're willing to accept?
Anthony, I have a question. Do you think we have to deprogram these people who have been brainwashed, and is there a way to put media out there, not only what you're doing and everyone else is doing here? How do we get past that?
It's a race. It's a race, and that's why I'm not anywhere close to an Alex Jones worshiper, but I must say,
not just us, but in Hollywood, do some producers, editors crack in there? Because we were talking about recently, like Eyes Wide Open, and there was another movie, The Matrix, and then the recent one is kind of like, I saw the Lego movie, and I saw that as like an idiocracy. Like a danger.
I didn't see it. So the new Lego movie is kind of like what? A kid's idiocracy?
Yeah, I'd say it's a mix between The Matrix and Idiocracy, the new Lego movie.
Get right out of here.
Aimed towards kids, and they're completely responsive, like loving it, and it plus adults, and it's somewhat.
Oh, I'm gonna have to check it out and do a movie review on it. I had no idea.
And there's and there's symbolism, all sorts of symbolism in that, in a positive, geared in a positive sense to get people, kids. I think it's got to be.
Wait, it's geared in a positive sense to what now?
It's in a positive sense as an opposite to what's all the bullshit that's being put out there. So it's completely countering the the negative about it. That's how I'm looking at it. It's like another way to fight back.
Oh wait, so you're saying it's actually like a movie that's kind of like good? Like
I'd say it was the best I've seen in the last 5 years, possibly like 10. Yeah, it's got to be one of my top 5. Just
no kidding. And what's it called? It's a new Lego movie. Does it have a title?
No, it's just called The Lego Movie.
Okay, all right. I'll download it tonight or tomorrow if I can and check it out. Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. Wait, and before I get into what you said before, did you just have a question on that or no? Or was it just how do we combat this?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Now, what I was saying is, I'm by no means in any way, shape, or form an Alex Jones fanboy. He puts out good information, and that's that. I don't get a chance. I've been on a show. I've hung out with them and all that. But I do my own thing. I do my own research. But the only reason I'm even bringing that up is because InfoWars. Okay, you couldn't have come up with a better name for what we are involved in here.
Right.
This is literally an information war, okay? And that's the reason I brought that up. I didn't want you to think I just did info war and plug in InfoWars. But it's a great place for people to go check stuff out. But this is literally an information war, and there are so many people I've talked to that. And the topics are so varying. Just in the last couple of days, I've been doing my bills here, and I call one of these people, handle a bill, and like I told you earlier, how I did this Bitcoin transfer, and I'm a talkative person, and I try to communicate with people every chance I get, and I would talk to somebody from whether it be electric company, water, whatever, and I asked them, hey, do you take Bitcoin, And I knew what the answer would be, but 2 out of the 3 people knew what I was talking about, but they thought it was, they're like, oh, I heard that was dead. Is that still going? The one guy didn't even know about it, but he was so interested. Oh, surprisingly, he was a guy from the bank. And I told him, I'm like, do you know how much I had to pay? Or do you realize how little what I paid to transfer, this amount of money? And I told him he couldn't believe it. And he was writing all the information down, and I gave it to him, I said, dude, look into it, man. I'm like, check it out. And he's like, oh, I appreciate it. And I'm like, well, you got all my information, just go to my website. It's myname.com, we just, you know what it is? It's a race, okay? And this is why we need more people. And, like I said earlier, I'm on 3 nights a week now. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I'm on 3 different networks, and I'm syndicated on other shows. So my shows are playing all week somewhere, okay? But I'm on 3 different networks, and I'm very glad that the other 2 networks I just picked up are people that asked me to come onto the network and do a show, and I said yeah. And it's getting out to a whole different audience, all right? Now, if more people were able to, because once you get it, once it finally hits home, like, wow, things are not like I thought. It changes your life, and you never know what I say could change somebody's life. They'll be like, oh my God, it's just I hit them a certain way, or any one of you guys could say something and it just hit somebody a certain way. So you might not think you're making progress, but you have to keep putting information out there the best way you can. That's number 1. Number 2, you have to be creative. Radio shows are good for some people. Some people it's not. They're not made to, be as talkative. Okay, come up with another, whatever you're good at. Be creative. Mm-hmm. Come up with an idea. You see, what kills me is I know a lot of people that are good intentions. They want to do what's right, but it's like, all right, we're going to have a meeting once a month. And, Like, I used to go to meetings, and it'd be liberty-based meetings, and it was just like talk, and, we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. And it's like not much really ever got done. I was the kind of person, when I first got hip to this, I borrowed somebody's camcorder because I didn't even have a camcorder, and I went out and, challenged Bill Clinton to a freaking debate in front of like 5,000 brain-dead, liberal zombies and got surrounded by, union thugs, where the guy said, why don't you just beat them up right there? And the cops were looking the other way. Like, they literally wanted to beat me up. And the only reason everybody's like, all the comments, why'd you go alone? I went alone because I couldn't get anybody to go with me, but I wasn't going to pass up this opportunity that an ex-president was coming within 20 minutes of where I live. But now,
right.
The paradigm has shifted so much that, not only do I have multiple cameramen, I have a video editor, I have volunteers that help me run my website. So this is what we need. We need people that understand what's at stake and realize, hey, we need to help get, whoever's, number one, first of all, you could be the person that could be making a change in any way you think is possible or educating people. I used to just burn DVDs and walk through Walmart parking lot, throwing them in any window that was open, like loose change or, that's where I was at, 10 years ago, 8, 9 years, something like that. Hang on, I'm still on the phone. Do anything and everything you possibly can, and there are people that work, really hard, have a family, and cannot do something like that. And some people are extremely timid. I encourage them to get past that point.
Right.
If you can't, find the people that you trust, that you believe are genuine, that are doing this for, altruistic reasons, and support them because it costs money. Somebody, and I'm not the only one, but we sacrifice our frigging lives to do this. I've had so many death threats, it's ridiculous. I've had people literally take pictures of my house, my house, my home, take pictures of it, put it with all my personal information, cell phone number, my address, everything, and then I didn't even know what this website was until I found out about this, put it on a website called 4chan, which is like, I guess, an anonymous website where people go to upload all kinds of crazy porn and all kinds of crazy videos. And I found out it was very suspicious that a sock account YouTube channel that had 0 subscribers had one video of me that was going viral, Like, it had like 200,000 hits or 300,000 hits within like a couple hours. I'm like, what? Yeah, so I was able to track down the source, and we were able to figure it out. But, yeah, I had a U.S. Marshal. Well, this person claimed to be a U.S. Marshal. One time I needed a ride, and if you're in this business like a lot of us are, we have friends and people that want to help us, and that's great. One of my friends got beat up by a local police department. So he called me as soon as he got out of the hospital. He wanted to get it documented. At this time, I didn't have a ride to get 20 minutes to where he was. So I put on Facebook, is there anybody that can get me from, my area to his area 20 minutes away? Well, I get, and just to let you know how serious this is, that this is, this isn't joking around anything, all right? So I get a message from basically a Facebook stock account where it's and I know a lot of people have them because if you have a certain kind of job, you can't put your real name or show your real picture or whatever. So somebody gets in touch with me. They made sure they let me know they were a girl, and she said, occupation enduring freedom and occupation Iraqi freedom, this and that, right? So she's like, I'll give you a ride, and I'm like, really? Or is that cool with you? And she's like, yeah, I'll leave work right now. I'm like, wait, you're going to leave work to give me a ride? And she's like, yeah. Now, I didn't know who this person was, I never communicated with them before. And so I said, but I really needed to get up there. And up to this point, this was a couple of years ago, up to this point, I didn't really have a reason to doubt this, because a lot of times I would ask for help and people, help me. So this particular instance, it seemed like I was being watched by the government and they took advantage of the situation. Well, being I didn't know this person, it could have been just some crazy, person. I walked 5 blocks away from my house and that's the address I gave for this person to pick me up. Now, if it was the government, which it seems it was, they showed up where I said, but if it was the government, they probably knew where I lived anyway. But she showed up where I was. She got out of the vehicle, okay, good-looking girl, wearing a professional, one-piece suit. It looked like she just left, the FBI friggin' headquarters, okay? She gets out of the vehicle, all right? She gives me a hug, all right? First thing she did was give me a hug. Now, if you hear the rest of the story, you think that if, maybe she put a bug on me, I don't know, because she didn't know I was going to, take her into the house where we were going. We were going to my friend's house. So as soon as we get into the vehicle, she tells me she's a United States Marshal, right? And I'm like, really? I'm like, okay. And so afterwards, doing all this thinking, I'm like, did she have to say that legally? So if I said something, it would be, she said, I told them exactly who I was, and it would be held up in court.
Yeah.
This was right around the time Adam Kokesh got arrested in Philadelphia for the Smoketown prohibition, and I just got back from that, and she asked me about that, and I didn't have anything to say about it anyway. But she told me how she's this big fan of mine, right? And, red flags started to pop up on the way down there, okay? So we go to my buddy's house, and I go in, and it was exactly what it was. He got beat up by the cops, and he showed me the video. I downloaded it, this and that, right? And she came in the house. Now, to try to make a story, the story as short as possible, we go back out to the vehicle. We sit in the vehicle. You know what she does? And now, keep in mind, she's wearing this, skin-tight, professional, one-piece skirt type deal. I'm trying to paint a picture with my words here. It's a blue dress, skin-tight. I don't know where she could have been hiding a gun, but as soon as we sat back in her vehicle, she pulled out this revolver, and she said, I had your back in there, right? And then puts it in the glove box right in front of me. And I'm thinking, number one, I already told you these were friends of mine. Number two, what are you doing here? And I talked to, he was like, why are you pulling this gun out? And it was almost like, and I talked to multiple people, and they all agreed with me that it was some sort of soft entrapment to see if I, was going to say, don't worry, I had this gun too, and it was, maybe hoping I had some kind of illegal gun or something. But, so anyway, we're coming home, so now the red flag's really up. And so I said, so how long have you been following my work? And she's like, for a while now. So I mentioned some of the biggest things I ever did, like the Donna Rumsfeld confrontation, Bill Clinton, and she didn't know anything of what I did. I'm thinking, and she mentioned her husband a couple of times. I guess maybe she wanted to make sure I didn't hit on her, right? So I'm thinking, you just left your job. You left work. You told me you were sick to pick up a guy you never met before, okay? You're married, to go to another guy's house who was the victim of police brutality, okay? And you tell me you told your husband and he's cool with that. You say, he thought it was a good idea, right? And I'm like, none of this was adding up at all. And so I'm like, not to mention when I told her about Rumsfeld and Clinton and all this, she had no idea. I'm like, how could you be a fan of mine if you don't even know some of the biggest things I've ever done, especially for the fact that you left your job and you have a husband and, you're picking up a guy you don't know to go to another guy's house that you have no idea what's going on. So anyway, we
Anthony, I've got to stop you real quick, but we're going to
live show.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, I'll finish that. I'll finish that story real quick. So
hold on.
Yeah.
Everybody, the live show is about to end. You're going to get cut off, but if you want to hear the end of it, You can listen to it in a little while after we wrap it up. Okay. Now go ahead.
All right, we good?
Yep.
All right.
I don't know what that blast of music was, but...
Sorry, give me 5 seconds here. So we're coming home.
Very entertaining. Everything's been...
Huh?
Sorry,
So we're coming home, and I decided to start asking her a question. I'm like, when did you get? She brought up 9/11, and I'm like, so what got you hip to 9/11? And she went right back to the same thing she was saying earlier, like, oh, the weapons of mass destruction, this and that, and it totally didn't add up, because anybody who knows that when you wake up to 9/11, everybody has their own personal story. They could tell you. It's almost like 9/11 itself. You remember exactly where you were when it happened.
Oh yeah.
Like everybody has their own story about when how they became aware of 9/11. Well, she didn't. She didn't have that story, and what she said was the same thing she said about everything else. She's like, oh, being over in Iraq and the weapons of mass destruction, this and that, and I'm like, oh my God, this is so not right. And she's like, we need to stop and get gas, right? And we're about 5 minutes from my house, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, I'm dead. I'm like, a car's gonna pull up next to me and just blow my fucking head right off, I thought that was it, man. I really thought I was set up, and they were gonna take me out right then and there. But she pumped the gas. And she brought me home. She dropped me off where I told her where to go, which was the same place she had me drop me off 5 blocks from my house. But get this. So I come home. I start researching her, and guess what, brothers? She, her husband, and she was, OIF and OIE. She was Operation Enduring Freedom and Iraqi Freedom. But her husband, she was sexually assaulted in the military, and became like this local activist. I'm like, okay. I'm like, all right, makes a little bit of sense. But I looked a little bit deeper. Turns out her husband was head of PEMA, which is Pennsylvania Emergency Management. He worked for FEMA. He was head counsel for, you ready for this? For the United States Patriot Act compliance. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So this guy was a lawyer. Oh, and by the way, when we were at my buddy's house, and we said, oh my God, dude, you need a lawyer. She was real quick to pull out a card. Hey, I know a lawyer.
Oh.
Yeah, my husband. So he was the head counsel for Patriot Act compliance. Okay, under the Bush administration. He worked for PEMA counsel for Pennsylvania Emergency Management, and then he was one of the head counsels for FEMA, okay, for, the Federal Emergency Management. And there was even a couple more things there, but those are the main things. And I'm like, oh, my God, what are the chances? This would be, like, if somebody were to set up an operation to see if they're, local activists are what they are, or if they're, deemed a threat, if they're going to do some violence, he would be the guy that would put together a task force to, try to infiltrate and find them out. This is who this guy is. This is what he is. So I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And listen, you want, and I told you I've had many death threats and all that, but tell me how you would feel if you had something like that happen to you. And like, as far as the gun, like, do you think it was like a threat, like saying, listen, I totally could have just taken you out right then and there, or like was it soft entrapment to see if I was going to pull out a gun too, and something,
I think
or
pure intimidation.
That's what Adam.
Oh, yeah.
That's what a lot of my friends, said, like, either soft entrapment or straight intimidation. But, listen, think about that, guys. I made a Facebook post, and within 20, 25 minutes, they had a friggin' government agent picking me up. Do you realize the surveillance I must be under?
Wow.
Think about that,
Yeah.
man. No, seriously,
Big time.
I mean, unless you're going to call me a liar. And you know, like within 25 minutes, I had, and she did seem nervous. Okay, it's almost like they seen that post and they said we need to follow up on this immediately. And you know, like if we could have been being tailed. I wasn't paying attention because I was more focusing on talking to her and trying to find, because I did right out the gate. I didn't. Well, until we got in the vehicle, and she said I'm a U.S. Marshal, but then she said, but no, don't worry, you know, I'm on your side, and you know, like tried to make it seem like she would be somebody who would, you know, tip me off the information. But listen, I'm somebody who could go to a party of, you know, 10,000 people at a rave and pick out every single undercover cop. Where, you know, it's just so easy. They have that swagger and where they walk and talk, and I mean, I have it down to a science at this point. But yeah. So I mean, think of the surveillance. And you know, that's just me. So I would imagine all of us are. But yeah, think of the surveillance I must be under. That I make one post on a random day during the daytime, and within 25 minutes I have somebody. And you know, I don't even know if she was a U.S. Marshal. She very well could have been, you know, DHS. She could have been, you know, any part of the government for all I know. You know, she could have just said she was a U.S. Marshal. She did have there was a government, I think it was either a government plate or a sticker on the back truck, because I'm thinking, why did she tell me that right out the gate? And my first thought was, oh, maybe I would have noticed either the government plate or the sticker on the back. But then that's when and that's very possible. But then I thought the next thing was, well, if she tells me she's a U.S. Marshal and anything I give her at that point would be legally admissible in court, right? If she said, hey, I told him I was a U.S. Marshal and he still told me this, you know. So that, I think that was the biggest part of it. I mean, that was the first thing she said as soon as, and so she gave me a hug right before we got into the vehicle, and then the last thing she did is, you know, once I got my equipment, she gave me a hug again, and that's why I think that it's possible. And I was doing my best, and I certainly wasn't thinking about that. That's why I'm thinking it's possible she could have put a bug on me.
Yeah, trying
because,
something.
Like I said, she didn't know that I was going to let her in the house with me.
Yeah, that's a good.
Well,
that's a good.
Wow, what a story.
Point. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, make sure you get that one out there. But, I mean, I got stories, brother, and believe me, man, you know, I have. When you're pushing the envelope as hard as I do and others do, and you know, when you see other people trying to get set up with child porn and the computers and stuff, I mean, this stuff is real, you know, and it's scary, and you know, I'm not going to stop no matter what. So I just hope, you know, when the day comes when they finally come and get me, I just hope enough people step up and say, hey, we know that's not true, or whatever it is, and I hope people have my back, you know.
That's right. Well, we all need to have each other's back for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm sure we are way past the time of your show. You know?
No, that's fine.
It's all good.
But no, I know personally, my phone.
Your phone's gonna die, Mark.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys can hear the beeping. It's beeping on my end, so.
I thought it just died when I heard the silence. I was like, oh, there it is.
No, I've been waiting any minute.
It was DHS.
Okay, my mouse isn't working on my computer. I can't even do anything with the show anyway right now.
I know what. That's about right. That makes sense. You know, that's what happens.
Oh, it does. We have major problems.
Yeah.
But
no, well, hey,
I'm definitely going to wrap up because, like I said, my phone's going to die at any second. So I'm going to say goodbye while I still can. Yeah. Anthony, thanks for coming on, bud.
Yeah, no problem, man. Yeah, I got to wrap up too. No problem. Anytime, Mark, and I'll definitely be in touch with you because we got to hit up you know, this douchebag in our area, you know, a couple more times before the grand finale, you know. And I know you're down for that, so you know, we'll hit that up. And if you could get anybody else to help, you know, the more people, the better. I showed you, and Chris, right?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, Chris. Make sure you check out that video I was telling you about, where I called this guy, me and my buddy, with 2 phones, and I was on both lines. You got to check that out. But yeah, good stuff.
Is that on your YouTube channel? Got that right on there?
Go ahead and let
everyone know.
Are we friends on? Well, are we friends on Facebook or no?
Oh yeah. I got you on there.
What's your
Chris
what's your last name?
Chris Perkins.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, okay, I got you. I'll send you that video right now in a PM, so you got it.
Awesome.
But hey, great show tonight, guys. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, I know a half an hour always turns into an hour. That's fine because there's so much to say. Man. I mean, we burned through minutes.
Oh, we appreciate it.
Nothing.
Yeah, we appreciate you taking the time. Come on.
Hey, I appreciate you having me on, guys. Keep up the good work, and you know, anytime you want to talk, if I'm available, let me know, and you know, we'll talk some more. And actually, you know, we might do it again in the next couple of weeks. If you guys want to help with taking this to the next level and exposing more mainstream media people, so you know, we'll go from there, gentlemen.
Awesome
plan.
All right, awesome. Well, hey, thanks for having me on, guys, and have a great night. All right.
Same thing to you, buddy.
Thanks, you too.